Hi, I'm Melanie Littlefield, and today I'll be talking about collaborations and networks. First, I'll give you some definitions, then go into some of the benefits. I'll also talk about effective implementation strategy, some common challenges, and best practices to follow. Collaboration can be defined as the process of partnering with other organizations to achieve an objective. These relationships can be long-term, they can be on a project-to-project basis, they can be formal, informal. It really just depends on what the organizations involved are expecting and wanting to get out of the relationship. Also, collaborations can be between nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, and government agencies. Here listed are some benefits of working in collaborations. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go through this list. Some of them, like increased efficiency and reduced costs, those you can see kind of stem from if you're partnering with an organization that has access to resources that your organization doesn't have, it'll have those benefits for you. Also, collaborations can help to build social capital and strengthen reputations of the organizations. They can also be used to fill service gaps or fulfill contract and grant requirements. An example from an organization that I used to work with is Family Promise. The mission of Family Promise is to help homeless children and their families achieve sustainable independence. They do this by giving families a place to go during the day, to prepare meals, to do laundry, to just rest and look for work. And then when evening rolls around, it's closing time for the Family Promise offices. But the families in their care are still homeless. So what they have done is to coordinate with local churches to provide an evening meal and an overnight place to sleep for the families. And then as the next morning rolls around, the families are shuttled back to the Family Promise office to just resume their daily activities. This is kind of a twofold example of how collaboration benefits nonprofit organizations. For Family Promise, this relationship serves as a way to secure resources that they would not be able to provide on their own. In Bryan, they are not sanctioned to have families stay overnight at their office, so that is something that the churches are able to help them with. And then for the churches, working with Family Promise, it gives them an opportunity to fill service gaps currently in the community and to further their own purposes and just gain community exposure. So right now we'll talk about the implementation strategy for effective collaboration. The first step listed here is reasoning, and by that I just mean it's really important for an organization to determine why they are wanting to go into a collaboration and just to make sure that it's for the right reasons. Obviously, if they're doing it for selfish reasons, the partnership is just going to be doomed from the beginning. So after that, after the organization is sure that a collaboration is really going to be the most beneficial thing for the right reasons, they need to form an initial agreement. So whether this is a legally binding document or just the understanding of what is expected of each party. A strong initial agreement will help to improve accountability and strengthen the mission of the collaboration. It is also important in this step to determine the structure of the collaboration, be it formal, informal, or just something in between. As with all decisions made during collaborations, it's important for this all to be mutually agreed upon. Make sure everyone's on the same page. From this, you can go on to start developing trust between the organizations, and this is where most of the challenges you're going to run into might stem from a lack of trust, be it trust that the other party is not being completely open, trust that they won't live up to the accountability standards you have set for them, things like that. So it's really important from the very beginning to just establish this level of trust, and that does mean being open about your organization's strengths and weaknesses, and also delivering any other information that might come up during the project or during y'all's relationship, delivering that in a timely manner. The next after developing trust, it is important to assess the risks involved and prioritize those risks, as well as come up with a risk management plan. This will help a lot with the relationship if you sort of plan for problems before they arise. Um, After that, it is important to address the roles, who's going to be responsible for doing what, and along with that goes allocating resources. So um, whose location are we going to use to do this part of the project? Whose other resources are we going to use for other parts? That's all very important stuff to get out of the way before you really get started, just to make sure that you're you're gonna be on the same page and gonna be able to work together. Here we have some challenges that might arise. Again, some of these are pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go ahead and go through this list here. The first and most insurmountable challenge is having an incompatible mission. If you and your organization that you're partnering with don't have the same goals or mission in mind, then you're just really going to have a lot of issues come up, and it's not going to be a very successful collaboration. Next thing I want to mention is the problem with egos. As I mentioned earlier, collaborations are a very give and take relationship, and you can't go into it with a selfish mindset or thinking that you're going to use the other organization as just a stepping stone to get you where you want to be. You also have to make sure that there's something in it for them that's worth following through with this relationship. Next on here is turf issues, and that goes back to sort of the resource allocation. Many of these challenges can be avoided if you really get down to hammering out the details in your initial agreement. Also, time requirements and financial costs; those are both things that can definitely get out of hand in regards to what you might have estimated them to be. So that's a challenge that many collaborations face. Cultural differences is another important one. You can see this more in the for-profit sector when you have mergers and things like that. People tend to get really nervous about their own job security, what's going to happen in their office, and things like that. Well, the same goes for nonprofits. So when dealing with cultural differences, it's just important to reassure your staff that you're still going to be true to your own mission and that this collaboration is really intended to enhance what you're doing. And then, of course, accountability is always going to be a challenge. And that goes back to just having trust in your partner that they can come through with what they say they're going to, and having accountability measures in place to make sure that they are doing the things that they say they're going to do. So here are some best practices. I'll just go through these real quick. The first thing that is a best practice, and as I mentioned, is one of the most important things, is a shared vision. Once again, you just have to be on the same page. Secondly, here is sound process, and that just comes down to really having a set in stone way to do things, just to be organized and diligent, and that will help with trust, that will help with accountability and communication, which is the next point on our list here. And this again goes back to just really establishing that relationship, an open, trusting, honest relationship. The next thing is effective leadership. It takes a strong leader in both organizations to really lead the team, because again, collaborations take a lot of hard work. There's so many things that can come up, so many things that can go wrong. It really takes a strong leader to keep everyone focused and on track and working together. And again, back to hard work. Even before the collaboration even begins, there's so much work that has to go into the planning. Do we really need a collaboration for this project? Researching who would be a good partner. Are they willing to partner with us? There's a lot of communication that goes into that. And then once you've gone through all of that, you still have to complete the project or whatever your collaboration is for. So those are some things to keep in mind when dealing with collaborations. So thank you for listening.